Hi, hi again, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'd like to share another story with you today. It's another drum journey that I went on. So when I made my medicine drum, we were all often in groups, and someone would drum for us, and we would go on the journey with the intention. But once I'd made my medicine drum, I was able to do my own journeys and using my own drum. And at first, I thought it might detract from being able to fully let go into the journey. But what I did find was I would have the drum quite close to my uh, ear. And I was able to go on amazing journeys and found that I could then go to the very end of the journey. So, a lot of the controlled drum journeys, there's a certain time limit that you are in the journey for, and then you're called back. And so by doing it myself, I could access that same part of me, and I could also allow the journey to end. So I could go through the whole journey until I'd retrieved enough of the information to be able to heal myself. So it was a beautiful way of self into self-knowledge. And that's one of my main ways that I like to access my own truth, my own knowledge, without the impact of having a certain dogma that we need to believe in, or a certain set of programs that, that's going to be our definition of what we hear. So the drum for me has been one of the biggest healers of myself when I was going through depression. I didn't want to see any psychologists, or I didn't want to reach out to help in that way. I wanted it to come from within. I did need to reach, I did need help. And I instead going to the mainstream way, I went a more nature-based way. And that was through the shamanic journeying, through being in nature, through contemplation, through silence. And it really was amazing. So the story I'd like to share today was about a bit of a it's called soul retrieval. And one of the one of the biggest effects on me was when I was born. I was born in a hospital in England, and it was in the 70s, and at that time they were discouraging women from breastfeeding. So they were bringing in the formula to, the formula companies and marketing was impacting the hospitals. And so they were discouraging women to breastfeed and put them straight onto the formula. Now, for me, this this has really impacted my whole life. First of all, because um, the natural connection from a mother to a child is through um, that contact, that skin to skin contact. There's a lot of chemical messages that are established at this time. And I am going to say right now that I am absolutely not discounting anybody else's experience. I'm simply telling my experience, and I honor the path of every person, every woman and every child, for whatever reason that they needed to do in their life. I absolutely honor that path that they've been on. So this is just a diary of my experience. So when I talk about breastfeeding in this way, it's only me talking about my experience. I absolutely honor the journeys of every person, and I know that every journey is right for every person. So going on, the part of me that wasn't breastfed felt like it was denied. And so a lot of my healing was around this being nurtured, being safe, being held. And when I look back, I often think that there is a lot of past life story involved in one, the being without food, so not being sustained by food. I think there's also, because I used to listen to the stories of my grandma in the war when she would talk about the rations, and so she would talk about my auntie, climbing out of her cot during the war, and going down to and finding eating the whole ration of cheese for the week, and how they had no, that was all that they were rationed out because there was a war on. And so a lot of those stories impacted me as well, and I used to make sure that I had enough food for 2 or 3 weeks. Like I'd always have like food put aside. It impacted also where I worked. So I worked as a chef because I knew if I never had food at home, I would have food. I would be able to eat. I'd have access to food at work, and I'd have access to warmth as well. So these two things have been very prominent in the healing. But this particular journey focuses on that that child self of mine that wasn't breastfed as a child, as a baby. No, not even the colostrum. That it was straight onto the formula. The milk solids did affect my diet, so I have like an intolerance to like the whole milk and cream and ice, like ice, anything like it's just the whole milk. There's a bit of an intolerance there. So I'll begin there with this journey. I went to the middle realm, the middle world, and I was using my inner shaman of air. And so at the start of the journey, I went to a similar access point that I used, which is near the river that I love. And there's a paddock, a field down at the river, and it's quite low down. So in winter, there's often be a mist over the paddock, over the grass, and it would be covered in this cold mist. And that's where my journey began. I was walking through the paddock, and there was a layer of mist, and it came up to about my waist height. So above me, from the waist up, there was beautiful sunshine. The sun was shining on me. It was warm. Felt really nice. And then below, from my hips down, I was walking in the mist, and it was really cold, and it was dark. So um I became what happened was I actually became a mermaid. So I would lie down, I would put my head below the mist, and it would change color. So it would become like a black and white color almost. And then when I would raise my head above the mist, it was like going from these two different worlds, from this black and white cold world and back into the color, the vibrancy, and the sunlit world. And I then became a mermaid. So I had the mermaid tail. That was the method I was to use to swim through the mist. So I began swimming through the mist, and I'd be diving over the mist into the sun. I'd go down under the mist into the cold. And it was just getting accustomed to these two different realms. So then I'm just using my notes. So I then dived down, and so often there's like a tunnel. So there was this spiral tunnel, always a spiral tunnel going down. It was just quite small. And I thought I felt like I was going down to find this child self, like do this soul retrieval. Um, and I came to like a treasure chest, and I thought, oh, I'm going to find this child in this chest. So I began unlocking it, and I opened it up, and instead there was a book in there, a small book. It was, this tiny little book. And so I had like a pocket in my mermaid tail. I put the book in my pocket, and as I'd picked up the book, I noticed that there was like a false bottom on the chest. So there was like this round hole there. So I opened it up, and it was another tunnel going down. And so I became tiny, as you can in these shamanic journeys. I became really small. I went down through the base of this treasure chest. And I kept going down, and I kept going down. And then when I reached the bottom, I found a door, and it had a lot of locks. So, about 5 or 6 locks on this door. It was a massive wooden, heavy, really old looking door, big iron hinges with big rivets or screws or whatever they're called. Anyway, I started the um unlocking the door, and when I opened the door, it was like a circular room made of bricks. It was only really small. You couldn't really, I don't know. It was almost like a turret in a prison cell. And it was tall, so that it was like this round brick room, and it was quite high. The roof was high. And on the floor, in this really dirty little blanket, was a small child, um, just under the age of 1. She was sitting there. She had scared, wide eyes, and was a bit shocked to see me. Um, she was clinging to this dirty old blanket. Um, and I still was able to swim. So I was kind of swimming at this doorway, wondering what to do. I didn't really know what to do. I was looking at this child, and it was so sad, like seeing this lonely, little abandoned baby. Anyway, I got the courage to go into the room, and I just waited for a little while. Um, kind of I didn't want to scare the baby, so I waited there for a little while. And eventually she came to me, and at that moment, my my breast kind of filled with milk, so the letdown came in my breast, and I I picked up the child, and I held her to my skin, and I was able to breastfeed this little child. She kept looking up at me, and she'd touch my hair and touch my face. It was like she'd been waiting for me to come and get her. And I felt this immense sense of relief flowing from her to me. I wrapped her in like a warm, snuggly blanket, and there was created that sense of warmth, that heart to heart warmth that is created through that mother-child bond. And when you hold your baby to your heart. And I told her that it was time for her to come back with me, to come with me. And so I tied her onto my back, and we went back up through this tunnel. I was still had that mermaid tail, so I swam back up. I got into the treasure chest, and I read her a story from the book, and it was a book of love. And it was the story of a little girl called Lizzie. It was a story about me, or her, and how she was nurtured from the breast. She was kept warm. She was safe. She was held. And it was just this beautiful, beautiful kind of healing process that allowed me to give this small child the healing that she needed, she that she didn't. It was the breastfeeding. Like, there's no way, I really want to say this, there's no way that like, I know it wasn't my mum doing like this. I know it was it was the system. It was again the system creating these methods for women that were based on money, selling money, making money from women, taking away from the natural part of feeding your child naturally, and pushing the formula, the companies pushing their formula onto people, so in order to make money, when yes, there is a need for formula, and there is a place, and I honor the path of that. But for me personally, I was annoyed that, when you could do it, if you, I wanted to be breastfed. So anyway, that part of my child self, I then brought into a part of I brought her back into my body. I asked her to come and live within my womb space, where she would always be safe. She would always be warm. She would always be held and nurtured, and she would just have a loving place to go to. So this whole story was about me bringing back a part of a denied part of myself back into wholeness, back into consciousness, and back into a safe, loving environment, which I felt was not provided for. So then I returned again. I came back out through the paddock, through the mist. I came out of the cold, that dark, that mist part. And as I broke through the top of the mist, the sun and the warmth just flooded over me. and it was almost blinding. It was so bright, and it warmed my skin, just, was instantly warmed. I took the deep breath in and I smelled, all those beautiful smells of the trees and the flowers, and that it was like an autumn smell, but it was just beautiful. And then I put my hands into my womb space, and I knew that this part of myself was there. She was safe, and it was an incredibly healing experience that I was able to do at home by myself, with my drum, and go in, do this journey, and retrieve a part of my inner one part of my inner child that had felt denied, and brought her back in. There's also I have done a fair few journeys for retrieving a lot of my younger parts. There was different ages where I felt affected by different experiences that would then deny a part of myself, and that denied part would be pushed to the side, not able to be expressed. And so, yeah, I have done a fair few journeys where I've communicated again with older pieces of me, especially as a teenager. Yeah, and brought these pieces back, and you were able to go into the situation and change the outcome. So you can heal by changing the story in these situations, by bringing that part back in, by giving that part of the denied part of the self what it was lacking, what it was needing, whether it was being listened to, being nurtured or cuddled or held, or just being seen. And I would say nearly everybody has a part of their self, their child self, that wasn't acknowledged or was shut down. And a lot of this is because of the societal parameters that are put on things, what we're grown up with. Like, I grew up in, I was born in the early 70s. So each generation, there's a new set of societal conditioning that has to be worked through. So yeah, that was that journey. So thank you for listening. And again, I really want to say that I honor the path that you have chosen in this life. We choose these paths for a reason, for healing, for experience, for working on for our soul growth. And every experience is unique, and it is valid. And I really hope that if you are working through a, well, whatever trauma or experiences that you need to work on, that there's many ways of healing. And this is why I share these journeys, because this is a way that I found healing, through the shamanic journeying with the medicine drum. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.